Top 5 Tuesday? No, we've never said that before, and we're not saying it today because today it's actually draft time. We're talking fantasy, not fantasy football. Actually, I don't know why I said fantasy. It's more of just a dream. A dream. I have a dream, okay? And this dream is a dream draft picking from New York Jets rosters of the last 10 years. Ooh, slim pickings. All right, let's see what we come up with right here, right now. Boy Green meets Wudi.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Welcome to another episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi. It is your boy, James Wudi, as always, all caps, no cap, right here, ready to talk some New York Jets as always, and the one, the only, Boy Green, the man of the channel, the man of the domain. How you doing, Boy Green?
I'm doing great. I love this topic. It mixes it up. It's fresh. Again, we're still a few more weeks out from training camp, and I put together a draft board. I feel good. I feel good about my team. We talked about the picks. We talked about the strategy. We're feeling pretty good heading into this thing.
Wow. This is very exciting. He might be more prepared than me. I don't know. I mean, I definitely did my thing, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I put my Kevin Costner hat on today, but we're going to see what we come up with. Again, this is a draft. I don't even know if I know the rules. We are drafting. It is a snake draft, if you will, for a quarterback, running back, 2 wide receivers, a tight end. Right, so it is, kind of like a top 5, but not really. And we are specifically, the draft pool is specifically New York Jets players from the year 2014 to the year 2023. Not quite the golden era of New York Jets football or any type of football. Not quite, but that is a pool that we are using. So we will be dumpster diving today.
That's for damn sure. So those are all the rules, everybody. Again, it's any player that graced the New York Jets roster from 2014 through 2023, a 10-year span. Also, it's very, very, very important to know. I'll give you an example of a player that's not available for this pick, but just makes sense for it. Like LaDainian Tomlinson. Again, he did not play for the Jets anywhere in that time frame. But if he had, do you remember that 32 touchdown season he had? That wasn't with the Jets, pal. Doesn't count. It's solely Jets tenure for these players. So if a Hall of Famer had a cup of coffee with the Jets, then you could only judge him on the cup of coffee that he had with the Jets. You can't judge him based on, he had 30 great years in Green Bay and this and that, which may indicate one player that may or may not be featured on this fantasy draft. It's that it's solely based on their production or lack thereof with the New York Jets. So that's another caveat to this rule. Because, this is what's going to happen. We just did recently a top 5 thing, and people were beating me with a rusty wrench. And I just want to go, whoa! Let's watch the video. Let's hear the explanations. But of course, this is the social media world. There is no explanation. So when inevitably a graphic is made from this thing today, people are going to be pretty judgy. And they're going to be saying all kinds of things. Where's this guy? Where's that guy? And that's good banter. So it is what it is.
Yes, that's I will publicly say I'm sad that the clips could not make it to the cut. I mean, yours still wouldn't have made sense. I was roasting that list live on the show. I'm glad that they continued the roast. Better than Tom Brady's roast was a roast of Boy Green on Instagram. But for this list, yes, I like to call that the Le'Veon Bell rule, because Le'Veon, at one point was the best running back in football. At no point was he a great running back with the New York Jets. So that is to me, the Le'Veon rule, which Boy Green definitely said beautifully. That is a rule that is in effect. And
so let me ask you, we also established this is a snake draft, which means whoever goes first picks their guy, and then whoever goes second gets back-to-back picks, and then we roll through that, obviously, the rest of the draft. So there are inherent advantages to placement on the list and strategy and things of that nature. So I will throw it over to you, Woody, because I remember what you said when we were talking about this topic behind the scenes. You said something, I went, interesting, about certain things. So would you prefer to go first or second?
Well, Boy Green, chivalrous Boy Green, you can go first.
Okay. And I will gladly take first. I would have tried to fight for it. So, because I remember when we were talking behind the scenes, when we established a snake draft, we're like, oh boy, that second person has a great advantage of going back to back. And that's true. So I may look back on this moment and go, boy, I let Woody kind of take the jugular. But so as we do this, again, with all the rules we've already established, to me, and why I wanted the first overall pick is I believe over this span of time that we're referencing, 2014 to 2023, there is one player that is so far and above the rest of his contemporaries on the list that it is so important to take this guy, because like when people see this list, they're going to be like, whoa, he's got this guy on the list. That's how much of an eyebrow raiser. That's how much of a needle mover this guy is. And I will waste no more time in referencing this player with the first overall draft choice in this fantasy draft made up here on July 2nd. I'm taking Brandon Marshall, baby. He had the greatest single season in New York Jets history by every gosh darn measure. 109 catches, 1,502 yards, 1,502, and 14 touchdowns. It's the greatest single season we've ever seen, and luckily our eyeballs were there to see it. Brandon Marshall's a first overall pick, baby, and I'm not looking back. He is way better than any receiver we've had in history, let alone over this recent bit of time. That is a slam dunk first overall pick, baby.
Jared saw that coming, and I did not. I was expecting you to take somebody who was overrated, but instead you took somebody who was very accurately rated. I'm not gonna lie, he was on the board, and top two wasn't two. Brandon Marshall is him. Universally loved seeing him out there on the field. I mean, I felt like, any jump ball was his. Like, it was just so magical to see. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. But let me stop gushing over your pick. Now it's time for me.
You don't have to. But just to your point, because like this list will give us a chance to reminisce just a few nuggets, nothing too long. But, the jump balls, the Giants game, overtime winner, that one, obviously. There was one that's very forgotten about, and I was in a Boston bar when I saw this game. It was Jets-Browns. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw a pick. Stop me if you've heard that before. And Brandon Marshall grabbed the ball and ripped it away from the Browns defender and started running the other way. And the broadcasters were confused. Like, another interception from Fitzpatrick. And then, Brandon Marshall hugged the guy who had the ball. Again, it's a live ball. He just picked it off. And then they kind of, have this weird hug moment real quick. And then they're like, all right, the Browns are – what? Where's the ball? Where's Waldo? Oh, Brandon Marshall was running the other way. I was like, what? How did that happen live in the moment that Brandon was thinking that? So smart, so a great representative of Jet fans, even though he only lasted, a year and a half, basically 2 years with the team in 2015, 2016. He's been a great Jets representative and a proud Jets guy after, which has been really cool to see too.
Yes, absolutely. He's still, that's another good point, is that he's still giving the Jets, their props all these years later, even though this was kind of a small stopgap, in his career as a whole. We will go to the James Wudi team. The new first pick of the Wudi team. This is a guy that
let me know when you're ready to do it, and I'll play the chimes for you.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I feel like this person is just a beast. I think they will be the catalyst. We have not seen this player's best days yet. But the days that we've seen,
a current player.
but I mean, the days that we've seen have already been pretty damn good. So we can chime it up. With the first pick of this random July 2nd draft, the James Wudi, I don't even know.
Wudi
that's
Warriors.
Our name, the Wudis. Yeah. The Wudi Warriors are select Breece Hall. Okay, running back. In these last 10 years, there's only one running back in these 10 years to rush for 1,000 yards. Breece Hall wasn't one of them, but he did have the most scrimmage yards in that time. So that's a pretty interesting stat. Over 1,500 scrimmage yards, over 9 touchdowns. Both of those are the highest marks for a running back in that time frame. He is a beast. What he's had to work with, right? These numbers, in my opinion, are deflated. Okay, in the worst possible scenarios, this is the production he has had. Now we'll see with those scenarios around him increased. Sky is the limit, baby. And since it's a snake draft, double up, chime me up right now.
Oh wow, okay, no wasted time. All right, let's play him.
Well, the Wudi Warriors, you got a wide receiver 1. I cannot allow you to have the potential unbelievable wide receiver duo that you could get. So I must react to the draft board and snag Garrett Wilson, G-Dub, as Jared B has said, that duo, that fantasy duo that I thought I was going to get. No. If I can't get it, nobody's getting it. Okay, Garrett Wilson, come on down. I mean, this is another guy who I don't know, because Brandon Marshall's 2015 was actually pretty spectacular. I don't know if Garrett is going to surpass those numbers.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about Garrett.
Okay.
He has had consistent 1,000-yard seasons, and I expect him to have that for his whole Jets tenure. Marshall gave us the one super spectacular year, but I think Garrett's average is going to be, 1,300 plus yards and hopefully, many more touchdowns, in the future years. We know with Aaron, touchdowns should be aplenty. We don't know about the succession plan. I know, Boy Green's super high on, I'm not going to say that nickname, but Jordan Travis. So we'll see what happens there. But, for right now, what Garrett has done with the terrible circumstances has been a miracle. So give me Garrett Wilson with that second pick.
Interesting. So during our fantasy draft, again, I wish you would have left Garrett on the board, because that would have been the easiest pick. And boom, wide receivers done. Boop, boop. Because we get 2 wide receivers. So that would have been the quickest pick. And I would have sprinted. You should have timed me on that 40-yard dash to the podium if you would have left old G-Dub out there. So smart play, playing a little defense in an offensive draft. Very nice here. I'm curious because during our pre-conversations, our pre-production meeting, so to speak, on this topic, we're kind of talking about, as we talked about players, we'd be talking about their years. Hey, we're almost taking this version or this version. Again, not to double dip. Not like I could take Brandon Marshall 2015, you could take him in 2016. Not that you would have wanted to anyway, to be honest. That 2016 is a year we'd all like to forget. But it's interesting. Would you pick Garrett Wilson's Offensive Rookie of the Year season or this past season? So this past season, he had 12 more catches than he did as a rookie, but he had less yards and less touchdowns than he did before. So it's kind of an interesting little compromise there when you're evaluating the G-Dub thing. Do you have a preference on one or the other? Do you give a little bit more lean to catches as opposed to some of the other data?
I do actually. I did write down the specific years for all my players.
Yeah.
And for Garrett, I wrote 2022. So that
nice.
rookie of the year season.
The rookie of the year. Very nice.
Here's why. Obviously, the yards after catch were spectacular. But the second season, he started trying to overcompensate a bit, and he developed a little bit of a fumbling issue because he wasn't going down. He started to, he was trying to do too much. That started a little bit toward the end of the rookie year. I believe his first career fumble loss was against the Jags when my boy Chris Streveler threw in the ball. But then that carried over into the next year as, Boyle and all the different terrible quarterbacks were playing. He tried to do his best. So I like the pure playing for the love of the game, Garrett Wilson, who was taking those passes from Joe Flacco, taking those passes from Mike White, and just, having these beautiful yards after catch, those beautiful scores. That Garrett is the Garrett that I need on my squad.
Wow. Okay. Well, and it's hard to blame you because for all of the reasons you said. Now I get back-to-back picks here. Very interesting. I'm going to be honest. I'm in a bit of a pickle here because if I don't take one of these players, this player with one of these two picks, you're obviously going to take this person if I leave him on the board. But also, I like a little variety in the diet in terms of era because, while it doesn't sound like a lot with 10 years, but certain players that obviously were playing in 2014 weren't playing in 2023. Like their time had expired. So I kind of, I don't want to just have a list of, here's the 2002 Jets, the quarterback, wide receivers, running backs, and all that jazz. So I want a little variety. So I will be honest, struggling a little bit with, I got my big board here and I got my values and the players and the this. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. There's two guys that are that I'm considering right here for this selection. There are two guys that stand out to me. You know what? I'm going to go with a weird one, and let's play the gosh darn chimes. I'm making this pick. I'm making one of your other picks, but I will do it right now. Give me Robbie Chosen, 2017. And I know I'm leaving Eric Decker out there. If that's who you want, God bless, you can have him. And he had really 2 seasons that I kind of marked on my sheet when he was his own man band before Brandon Marshall got there. And additionally, when Brandon Marshall did get there, obviously they were a dynamic duo in 2015 and 2014. You had that crazy. It was Geno Smith's perfect game against Miami in 2014. Decker had 200 yards receiving, which got him over 1,000 yards and all that other craziness. So that was fun. But I got to go with Robbie Chosen. And people will forget about Robbie Chosen or Chosen Anderson or the Chosen One, Son God, God bless your God, my God. People will forget about what Robbie brought to the table. But in that 2017 season, he had just a hair under 1,000 yards, averaged 15 yards a catch, 7 tutties, 63 catches. I mean, he was spectacular. And one of the great finds we talk about all the time now, Joe Douglas having these undrafted free agent finds. This is predating, obviously, the Joe Douglas era. But Robbie Chosen, man, at a Temple, he was the speedster, one-trick pony in a lot of ways. And, that's a dynamic. I got Brandon Marshall, this beast, and then this take off the top of a defense. Robbie Chosen, baby. What do you think about that, Wudi?
I love Robbie. As a matter of fact, I'm not even gonna lie. I was loving him so much, I was overrating him in my mind because when I started looking at the numbers, I realized they weren't as good for him as I thought. Because for years he was the number one option on this team, and I thought he did an admirable job given what the situation and his skill set and all that. So I'm actually a pretty big Robbie fan. I think it's a pretty solid choice.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Jared B, I'll try to interact with the comments as we're going through this. QB is Slim Pickens. Damn straight it is, Jared B. It's kind of weird that we've gone, 2 full rounds, both of us picking, and a quarterback has not been touched yet. Because to me, I've got, 2 quarterbacks on my board, and I feel comfortable with either. So Woody can kind of draw the line in the sand and pick the one he wants, and then I will just go with the other. So to be honest, while there is, in the same sense as Brandon Marshall, it's disgusting to say, there's one quarterback that separates himself numbers-wise from any other quarterback during this span. but it just doesn't feel right. I feel like as soon as I made that selection, I have to go see my priest and make a confession about that selection. So I will leave that on the board for Wudi. And again, maybe it'll look like one of the greatest steals because that player I'm referencing is a very polarizing individual from that standpoint. Okay. All right, let's go to the big board here. So again, we're allowed a quarterback, 2 wide receivers, a running back, and a tight end. So if I'm not touching quarterback right now, I have to touch another position. I haven't dipped my toe in the water. And, I'm between 2 guys here, but the pick is in. The pick is in. The pick is in. The pick is in. And you're gonna laugh at me. I know you are, because I already know where all this is going. You're easy to read. You're like a gosh darn picture book, pal. I know where this is going. Play the goddamn Giants. I'm going with Chris gosh darn Herndon, baby, as my tight end. Give me Chris Herndon. Yes, I love old Chris Herndon, and I'm putting him in here as my starting tight end. And I will give some love to others after Wudi makes his pick at tight end. Yeah, Chris Herndon. People forget about the old Chris Herndon era, baby. He was second on the team in receiving yards back during that 2018 season. 4 tutties, 39 catches, over 500 yards. He was on the all-PFW rookie team, the one-handed catches. I mean, this guy was a freak, but he had crappy quarterback play, so we weren't able to maximize the obvious superstar that Chris Herndon was, baby. But, my dream team. Welcome to the show, Chris Herndon, Miami product, former 4th-round draft choice. Chris Herndon, we all remember you. Superstar.
Definitely was never a superstar, but I was actually prepared. I'm telling you right now, I was prepared to draft Chris Herndon, and I would have made a much more compelling case than that. Terrible quarterback play. What are you talking about? Some of the best quarterback play of the decade. But
okay.
It's a fact. Herndon, he was solid for literally 1 year. And then fizzled out, not in the league anymore. Just I don't know what happened to him.
Quality over quantity. Didn't want to waste away in the league. Hey, you know what? That's what Barry Sanders did. He was in for 10 years, 10 All-Pros. He said, I'm going out on top. Herndon went out on top.
That's a 1 year, and wasn't on top. Wasn't even in the middle. He was definitely somewhere. Now he's somewhere else. So that is Boy Green's team so far. Feeling good, feeling great. Dare I say it. So gonna make this quick. Chime it up, baby.
Oh, okay. All right. Make it quick. Chime it up. I am all about it. Let's go. Here it is. Chime.
Wudi Warriors, wide receiver 2, just like he was in real life. Eric Decker. Come on. What are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? I'm not even going to lie. I was fully prepared to take Robbie Anderson in this position. Then I realized, damn, Decker was a beast. I had to get my memory re-jogged. Boy Green already said it. As wide receiver 1, he did work. As wide receiver 2 in that prolific offense, he did even more work. Over 1,000 yards is something that Robbie never did as a Jet. 12 tutties, which is something that Robbie never did as a Jet. So especially with Garrett as wide receiver 1, and his career touchdowns, being half of that, we need Eric to supplement the touchdown scoring for this squad. So I'm gonna have to get Eric Decker. I'm very, very excited about that. Now it's so interesting. Boy Green already mentioned this, about this position. I don't know anything about, the priest and the Sully and all this, but I do know that I personally don't like coin flips, right? I don't. And when somebody is equal parts magic and tragic, I like to just set that coin down because I'm not trying to flip that coin. All right. So chime it up, baby.
Oh no.
With this next pick for the Wudi Warriors, give me the prince who was promised, the man who was personally let down by Joe Douglas, the man who was at Christian McCaffrey's wedding because he is an insider in the NFL, the man who will be starting at his position with a great coach and arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL today, the prince who was promised. I know I said that before. I'm saying it again. Samuel R. Darnold. With these weapons, behind a line that's not bottom 3 in the league, the sky is the limit. And you might be like, Wudi, are you insane? Oh my God, Fitz had this one, season, all this, all that. I mean, Fitz's next season, man. I mean, it was terrible. And I know we're taking quality over quantity. Darnold's best year had less interceptions than Fitz's best year. You may say, oh, well, he also had more touchdowns too. It's the Josh Allen. No, give me efficiency. What has Josh Allen won? Give me efficiency, okay? And again, look at what Fitz had around him and look at what Darnold had around him. Numbers alone don't tell the full story. You need to know what created those numbers. Okay, give Darnold that offensive line. Give Darnold a wide receiver 1 who is not Brashad Perriman. Give Darnold a running back 1 who's not 45-year-old Frank Gore, whose son is literally in the NFL right now. All right, with my team right now, Brees, Garrett, Decker, Darnold at the helm. I mean, once you see what he does with Justin Jefferson, you can already know that this was the right pick for the squad.
Okay, and I have to imagine you're referencing that 2019 season, 19 touchdowns, 13 picks, 3,000 yards for old Darnold. Is that
with the mono in his veins, still doing work?
Disgusting. How did that happen? How did literally our starting quarterback, who played in a game week 1 where the Jets are up 16-0 on the Bills, they somehow lose that game 17-16 because Kari Vedvik, our new kicker, missed 2 extra points that lost us that game. And then he gets mononucleosis, and then we get a week 2 Monday Night Football game against the Browns with Trevor Siemian, whose leg explodes, and Luke Falk and everything else that turned into. Good Lord have mercy. Wow. That's a tough pill to swallow there, Wudi. I'm going to be honest. But okay, Darnold, that is that's an interesting plot twist. I'm going to be honest. That wasn't a quarterback I had on my draft chart. Did not. So I'm just going to go right to it. I'm going to go to my quarterback here on the list. If you're going to leave him out there, I'm taking him. Excuse my Guatemalan, but fuck Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm not taking that piece of human garbage. I don't give a shoot that he's the number 1 and passing and this and touchdowns. I don't care. I hope Aaron Rodgers goes to Ryan Fitzpatrick's imaginary Jets house and lights it on fire and burns everyone inside, because I don't want any of these records to ever live again. And but we can't pick Rodgers, so people are asking the chat, Aaron Rodgers, he played 4 snaps. I have no history of Aaron Rodgers to go on Aaron Rodgers. We can't use the Hall of Fame thing, which is the whole diatribe to start the show. I'm going with Josh McCown, baby. 2017 Josh McCown. And by the way, one of the most underrated Jet seasons, and I have the numbers for you, folks. Guess what? Sam Darnold threw that 3,000 yards. Guess who was right behind him with the same amount of games, 2,900 yards, and his touchdown reception ratio was double, baby, 18-9, which is much better than our boy Darnold. He had 1 more touchdown pass, but a bunch more interceptions. 67% completion percentage. Josh McCown in the 2017 year, our fearless leader, the hair, the moxie. This is a guy that gets lost in the shuffle because that was the suck for Sam year. And then we forget about it because the 2018 draft came months later. But Josh McCown was a warrior of epic proportions, and I am very proud to have that journeyman that played for all 34 teams. I know there's only 32. He played for all 34 gosh darn teams. That's my quarterback, baby. I'll get all T.O. start crying here if I don't move on. But Josh McCown, baby, 2017, a sneaky, he's on the board. Beautiful. Great job on my draft team. I'm taking him out to dinner tonight for that pick. That value fine this late in the draft. No question about it. Give me Josh McCown, baby. All day.
I was getting ready to just go on the largest detour of Guatemalan, if you call it, if you're about to take Zach Wilson. So I'm glad you come to your senses. Josh McCown's a pretty good value pick, pretty good. Not better than my boy, the Prince, who was promised, but McCown is solid. Mentored that Prince for a little bit. Good value.
And let me wrap up my draft, which it's funny that it ends up being a top 5 in a very weird way, but I will go to a guy that you hinted at, but you didn't mention his name, and you said that there is a guy, and we will get a recap of the picks at the end, Brandon. I appreciate you asking and calling. We will go through our whole fantasy draft here in just a moment, but before we do, play the chimes, you bastard. Chris gosh darn Ivory, baby, who, by the way, this is also a stat that people forget about. Who was the last 1,000-yard rusher? People were like, was it Le'Veon? Was it Frank Gore? It was Chris Ivory back in 2015. The Jets actually conquered a lot of their demons in that season. They had this long stretch of not having a 1,000-yard receiver in forever. They broke it with 2 guys that season. That was Eric Decker and there was Brandon Marshall. They didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher in forever. That was Chris Ivory. They didn't have a double-digit sack guy. That was Muhammad Wilkerson. They didn't have 30 touchdown, all this other crap. Ryan Fitzpatrick. They checked off all these buckets. Chris Ivory was nasty. He looked for contact. And one of my favorite runs is the one who was against a divisional opponent. It was Bills or Dolphins. It escapes me on which one it was, but he broke like 20 tackles. And I heard, Ian Eagle going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he was doing this wacky inflatable arm fly like two-man thing as he went, ba-boom, ba-boom. It was just trucking motherfuckers. So, Chris Ivory, baby. Yeah, you can have, again, that was another one in my draft that, of course, the two, although let me give a few shout outs, I guess. Bilal Powell was on my list.
Chill. What?
2017, baby. He was the lead back for the New York Jets.
Yeah, but still not even close to Ivory or Brees.
Rushing yards. Count up the math there, sucker. Matt Forte, 2016. Sometimes when you go through these, you're like, Matt Forte was on the Jets. Chris Johnson, CJ 2K was on the Jets back in 2014. Yeah, that happened, baby. But shout out to some of those bastards. I love Bilal Powell. And again, he had a chance to be RB1 in that season, which was interesting. Again, the lost year, Josh McCown and everybody else. But Chris Ivory does not get enough love from the general public. Last 1,000-yard rusher for the Jets, the ultimate value pick here late in the draft. And he has he's had 1,000 yards. Is Brees Hall? Don't think so. Sorry. But the math. Screw the math. Chris Ivory did the math. Beep, boop, pop. 1,000 yards, bastard. Yeah. Final pick. Lock it in.
Yes. So just a reminder that Brees has had 300 more scrimmage yards in the season and more touchdowns in the season than Chris Ivory. So there's the math.
How many touchdowns has Brees Hall had in a single season? Sir?
What that 2015 season, Chris Ivory had 8.
Yeah.
And Brees Hall had 9.
Okay, one more. All right, pass the biscuits. But
that's what I just said. I said 300 more.
Balances out. So
that's what math is. So 300 more yards and 1 more touchdown. So in both metrics,
300 more scrimmage yards, not rushing yards, scrimmage. But that's fine.
Yes. So more yards. Yes, that's correct. So. Brees better at both ends, but that's not to diminish Ivory because I love Chris Ivory. Ivory was for many years my favorite. Well, no, I was diminishing your logic of math. It was horrific attempt of math. You could have just said, "Oh,
that's ironic." That's ironic
he had more rushing yards, didn't have as many scrimmage yards, didn't have as many touchdowns, but still a good player. That's the truth. But to try to act like his accomplishments were more than Brees's is incorrect.
Okay, so since we're playing math, Wudi, I don't know where you went to college. I don't want to know. I don't want to give them a bad pub and rep on this show. But Brees Hall's played in an era of 17 games. Chris Ivory didn't have 17 games. If he had a 17th game, he would have added those stats that you were looking for.
Oh, he would have had 300 more.
A lot of your players, by the way, that you're giving all these stats to, Garrett Wilson, 17-game era. Brees Hall, 17-game era. You want to know how many guys I have on the 17-game era? Let me count. 0. So I don't need to you can have your list with an asterisk on it because you got all these fancy made-up games. These players on my list,
all these fancy, yes,
the game the way it was supposed to, the way that it was done. So older people will be like, Paul, yeah, that's back before the 17 games with their bad stats and all that. So that's your list, pal. But anywho, who's your final pick? Scrub.
Do you want to do it per game? But all right, we won't get on that whole thing. But Brees, like that definitely equates to more yards per game. But anyway, let me just give my flowers to Chris Ivory, because again, he was my favorite player on the Jets for quite some time. I was gone. I think Jared said that in the comments. I wanted to keep him. I was definitely in that boat as well. I wanted to put him on this list, but if Brees wasn't the tremendous talent that he is, Chris Ivory would have been my pick, no question. He would have been in that first round. But Mr. Irrelevant of this draft, July 2nd draft, but not irrelevant because he's actually the best in his position that we've seen in the last 10 years, is Tyler Conklin. No doubt about it. Oh, yes, my bad. Yeah, the charm. But, I mean, he is that dude, most yards by a tight end in that time. Would have had more touchdowns if Zach Wilson wasn't the definition of booty cheeks. But
more touchdowns. He didn't have a touchdown. Singular. Yeah, you said you would have had more touchdowns.
Yeah, 2022. Do you have access to internet, Boy Green? Because in 2022 he had 552 yards and 3 touchdowns.
How many touchdowns did he have last year?
Well, who's talking about last year? We're talking about the player's best years. Are you aware of
his
the
best
rule?
year where he had a career high in receptions and yards last year? Yeah, his best year, 0 touchdowns. Yeah.
What are you talking about? I just said the 2022 year where he had 552 yards and 3 touchdowns. This whole list we're going off of one person's. Hold on, this whole list was going off of one person's year. We talked about Brandon Marshall's 2015. We didn't talk about Brandon Marshall's 2016.
But Tyler Conklin's better year was last year, both in receptions and yards. You're saying the randomness of touchdowns gives him a better season in 2020?
What do you mean the randomness of touchdowns? This is my list. I've chosen the years of players. I've chosen.
That's fine.
Okay, that is. Well, I guess that's why you didn't choose.
I don't know how that's a determiner. Like Conklin literally had more
less yards.
I don't understand.
I just told you how I made the choice. Right. So Brandon, let's do this recap. The Wudi Warriors, as I call them. Quarterback, the prince who was promised, the man that ain't getting enough love, Sam Darnold. Going down the line, Brees, the beast at running back. Give me the better wide receiver duo by far, Garrett Wilson and Eric Decker. Okay. And then at tight end, Tyler, the man Conklin. Pretty much, an all-time team.
All right, I'll give my 5, and I'll also answer a few of the questions that are left here in the chat. Quarterback Josh McCown, again, after that amazing 2017 season, great guy. My running back is Chris Ivory, last 1,000-yard rusher. You guys may have forgotten that, and New York Jets history. That was back in 2015. Wide receiver duo, Brandon Marshall, literally the greatest single season by a Jets receiver in history, and the Jets have a lot of great receivers, including Pro Football Hall of Famers, and Brandon Marshall had a better singular season than any of them. Robbie Chosen, who was just under 1,000 yards, 15 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns that year, pretty gosh darn spectacular, and a member of the former PFWA all-rookie team, Chris Herndon, baby, there at tight end. So I see a lot of people saying, Paul, interesting strategy for the running back in this round, Let me explain. It's very simple, and Wudi wouldn't understand this level of strategery, but the fact of the matter is we had one quarterback, we had 2 wide receivers, and so, again, quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end. As soon as Wudi takes a running back, why in God's green earth would I take a running back any sooner than the last round? He can't take another running back. So I'm not going to waste my value pick. I can immediately, instead I reverse it. I get the greatest value ever. I get Chris Ivory last because he's blocked. Rudy can't draft him. So when he took some of these positions, I was able to block it out because I didn't need to. That's strategy, people. Okay. I know that sometimes when you adopt the Wudiology here, a strategy was not a course at that college. I went there. Not great. I left. I went there for a quick campus tour, met the lovelies, and I went, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. It's one of those dummy guys, what not to do. As soon as I went there, I knew not where to go. And it was beautiful. So, that's sound strategy. You're damn right it is, Jared. See, changing minds once every day. Wish we could say the same at Professor Wudiology land, but we can't. So, boom, that's a strategy, folks, and got optimal value at every single pick. That just is what it is, and quality.
If you say so, the way I see it, running back had more yards and scores. Tight end had more yards and scores, or not more scores actually, but more yards. The running back had more yards and scores. Tight end had more yards. If you add up the receivers,
do that math.
It's more scores but less yards.
Wait, more scores? Do your math, sir.
What do you mean?
Do your math, man.
Oh, Garrett. My bad. For some reason, I had Robbie. I thought I had Robbie. Yeah. So at two of the positions, so that's what I'm saying. At two of the positions, I'm up. And then, of course, Sam the man, more yards and scores. So seems like team won.
And score. One.
Yeah. So one's not more. One is the same.
So a guy
that's why I used to be nervous about Boyd Green. His TI-83 is still missing a battery. But
a guy that's old enough to be his grandpa was comparable in every major category, but better in completion percentage. You're like,
comparable.
Sam Darnold beat him.
Actually worse. Actually worse. All right. If somebody's 5'8", somebody's 5'9", who's taller? It'll be the 5'9" person every time. All right. Okay. But anyway, that is that. Those are the lineups. Perhaps you'll see them at a later time. But this is all our time. Thank you for joining us this Tuesday. And on the 4th, explosive, if you want to see fireworks before the fireworks, you can hit up your boys. We will be live on that day, Thursday, July 4th.
God bless. We'll see you guys. Take care.